Hello. Let's see. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Morning. What up, Jen? Oh, man. Today's a good day. Today is a good day. Waiting to see Kyle jump up on here and we'll add him on. Oh, be right back. Live video. What do you think about that? What up, Tanya? My sheet just blew away with all my questions on it. What up, James? Good to see you on here, man. Thank you for that, Jennifer. Thank you. Father's Day is a good day. I'm always liking Father's Day. It means the grace of God has been good to me because for me to have kids, woo! Kyle, I don't know. I just saw you pop up and pop away. I don't know how to, let's see here, guest request, Kyle. Boom, look at this. We are getting super sophisticated. Kyle wants to be in your video. Yeah, let's try it. If it'll pop up. There he is. All right. What up, my friend?
Hey, how you doing?
Good morning to you, man.
Good morning. Good morning.
I saw you pop up and then went away. I was like, oh no, did I miss my spot? A little piece down on the bottom. High tech stuff, right? High tech.
High tech all the way.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. How's your week?
It's been good. It's been good.
Yeah.
Yours?
Weather still treating you nice? 'Cause it's blazing down here right now.
Yeah, it's a little warm today. It's gonna be, I think, up to 8. Well, actually, it's 83 right now.
Oof. Yeah, I think we're close
Yeah.
to
So
90s. Going to
yeah,
Goat Island for a picnic with the kids after this.
sweet.
Have a good time and hang out. Get out of the house.
Absolutely.
For sure. All right, man. Well, we're going to jump in. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, this is my friend Kyle Butler, a lover, a light bearer, a person who believes in higher consciousness, that there's more going on than what we actually see. And he's just a genuine guy. I've been following him for a long time on Facebook. He's a genuine, good dude. So I felt like when some people asked to have a black guy come on, there wasn't anybody else that I wanted other than Kyle, because I know that he has a heart for people and we'll both be able to talk and dialogue, and neither one of us will get mad at each other, and because we understand everybody's growing and learning. So that's the story with that. Last week we talked for about an hour or so. If you didn't watch it, then jump on and catch that one too. Lots of great dialogue, lots of talking. At the end, I asked for questions. If anybody had questions that they wanted Kyle and myself to talk about or Kyle to answer. So I have a list of those that came in. Thank you guys for doing it. I thought we might get too many, Kyle, but it worked out great. There was really only 7 that came in, so that was perfect.
Okay.
Hopefully we'll be able to blow through them. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself and say what's up?
What's up? Well, thank you for that really nice introduction, and happy Father's Day to you, I want to say, and to everyone watching, happy Father's Day. I think Phil said enough about me already, so there's not really much more to add. I will say this, though, along with what Phil said about me, I echo that very same thing about him. I find him to be not only a loving, kind person, but very open. And, it's very difficult sometimes to find people in the religious world that are open-minded and willing to be open-minded. we get trapped into our dogma and our indoctrinated views, and we think that's all there is, and we refuse to go any further than that. And that's been one of the tragedies of church slash religion slash faith itself.
Sure.
But Phil's not in that camp, thank God. I'm not in that camp anymore either. So
Yes.
we're two brothers who don't mind pushing the boundaries, don't mind exploring, don't mind thinking outside the box, inside the box. We just don't mind.
Yeah.
So I'm honored to be here with a fellow like-minded brother.
Yes.
Who just happens to be white, by the way.
Yes, right. Amen to that. And thinking outside the box, for me, one thing that happened to me in Christianity was any questions against the doctrine were skewed and seen as rebellion. And that was like the biggest red flag to me. If our doctrine can't be scrutinized, then I don't really know if it's believable, right? So once you start scrutinizing things and looking at it with a magnifying glass and trying to really wrap your mind about it, a lot of the stuff we believed growing up isn't the truth. That's for another time, right? Yes. All right, so we're going to jump into these questions. I know a bunch of you probably got stuff to do, so I'm going to try not to make it run an hour. First question, and these weren't addressed to me or you, Kyle, so we'll just kind of say them. I'm not going to mention where they came from. That way they're really clear to just be open-aired questions that we can talk about.
Okay.
The first question was perception. Perception. Could this be part of the problem in America because we have a perception of the actions that poor people in general do? So when we see somebody that seems to be poor, then we automatically think they must be up to no good. Reading between the lines here, I feel like they're saying a lot of the profiling going on. Could the perception be that when, which leads to another question, but one of the white privileges that we discussed last time is that when you or I walk into a store, we're looked at different simply by the color of our skin. Right. You want to talk into that about perception?
Yeah, perception definitely plays a role. I think we mentioned it a little bit last week when we started talking about the stereotypical mindsets that we have towards one another. It plays a really big role. Walmart, a national, worldwide brand, one of the largest corporations in the world, one of the most popular, well-known businesses ever.
They're everywhere.
They just recently decided to unlock the black hair products in their stores because they had been, locked for years.
Wow.
Because the perception is black women and I guess maybe black men will walk into their stores and try to steal these black hair products. Now, I think that's incredibly unfair. But again, it plays into that perception. It plays into that stereotypical mindset. Everyone steals. Everyone steals.
That's true.
I mean, I was a little boy. I walked into a supermarket once. I saw some candy I really wanted. I didn't have any money. I stole something. I have a friend of mine who was my best friend. He's white. He walked into a store one day. He saw something he wanted. He didn't have the money for it. He tried to take it. Everyone steals. Yeah. But the stereotypical mindset or the perception is we do it more and, so on and so forth. So I live in an urban area where you walk into stores and things are locked up. Things are behind cages. You have to ask assistance and things like that. And unfortunately, that picture painted is so ingrained in our mentality that, it really affects a lot of things that we do. But the way to change that is to stop targeting, groups of people. And, of course, to change the mindset. And that takes time. And I think that's one of the things we're really looking to do with all of this is change the mindset, change the perception.
Yes. Gotcha. Yeah, I understand the high ticket items like iPods and phones and
Right.
things like that being locked up. But again, in my ignorance, I had no clue that white or black hair products were locked up. Like, that
Yeah.
is freaking hilarious. Like, thinking
Yeah.
only those products in the hair aisle are locked up. Wow.
Right.
That makes you feel special when you walk down that aisle, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
On that same note, this question gets a little more aggressive and a little deeper. It wasn't in the order, so I'm just going to jump down to it because you brought up part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So let me see if I can get this out. I tried to chicken scratch it out because I couldn't copy and paste on my phone. My phone is here. With what you were just saying about perception, this was number 5. The reason for some white privilege is because blacks seem to do most of the crime in certain areas. So isn't it normal for a business owner to naturally think that if the majority of the black issues are in my store are black, then shouldn't I pay attention to them? My question is, why, when you bring that up, whether it's a black person or a white person that brings it up, they're called a racist, a Trumpster, or if it's a black person saying this, they're called a white person in a black body, basically asking people to just take accountability and step up for their own action. So that kind of taglines the perception. So
Right.
speaking to that as a black person, one that on the last show you said you were grouped into the group where you were profiled, you were followed for miles, you were harassed by the cops, and all you got was a Blockbuster video.
Right. Um, we want to pay attention to the economic structure we need the economic piece to be brought out.
Yeah,
Now,
totally.
one of the problems with systemic racism is the economic playing field isn't level. Now, I'm not going to necessarily blame the economic conditions for it all, but it plays a role.
For sure.
Poor communities will often be high crime areas. Uh, and not because people want to be um, thieves or commit crime, but in an environment where there's little to no opportunity, survival of the fittest plays a role
And
here.
eating food.
I,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you a story. I was in a part of town in another town. This part of town was, a little bit more black. So, this is kind of this was the blacker supermarket, we call it, the black one. We had the white supermarket, we had the black supermarket.
That's awesome.
So I was going to, I was in the area and I wanted some plums. I love plums. So I was passing the supermarket, so I'm going to go inside. As I'm walking inside, I hear this commotion. A store manager had this guy kind of contained or detained. And the guy was saying, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get something to eat, yada, yada, yada. And it's a black man. And I normally would ignore it and keep walking, but I was so compelled to say something. And so I said to the manager, and I'm only going to say this for descriptive purposes. He was a white guy. The guy who stole was black. Okay. And I said, what happened? Do you mind if I ask what happened? He said, yeah, this guy was trying to steal these meats. And the black guy turned to me and looked at me and said, I'm just trying to feed my family. Now I'm processing this in my head.
Yeah, real time.
He wasn't stealing an iPod. He wasn't stealing a camera. He wasn't stealing, a bicycle. He was stealing some meat. And so I turned to the manager and I said, look, let me pay for it. I'll pay more for it if necessary. Just let me pay for it. Let him go home and, whatever. And the guy understand it. You want to set an example. You're tired of people coming to your store stealing. I get all of that. But the guy just was trying to get some food for his family. So, not all crimes are the same.
Yeah.
Not all situations are the same. Sometimes people turn to crime to try to fit needs and fill needs. And again, I'm not saying that makes it right, but in poor areas, sometimes people feel hopeless. And in a hopeless environment, in a hopeless mindset, and when you feel that way, you'll start to turn to, you know, whatever you feel necessary to do. And these are not always crimes that are opportunistic. They're not always crimes of opportunity. They're not always crimes of just because they don't give a F. They just want to go do bad things.
Right.
So those statistics are in there. And I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, because it's probably not. I'm sure there's some opportunistic thieves out there that will rob you because they just like robbing you and those kind of things. So I know it's an issue and I know it's a challenge. And what would I do if I owned a store in these environments? I'm sure I would try to put in some safeguards to protect myself and my inventory as well. And if it's in an urban, low income, poor area, of course we want to protect ourselves. And as much as I understand that, I also would have to understand what's driving some of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I was talking to a friend of mine maybe a week ago, and she was the manager at Victoria's Secret, and she said, here in Montgomery, and she said that their policy at Victoria's Secret is if you see somebody shoplifting, you can't address them. Like, that's store policy. And so she would tell me that she knew who was gonna, I'm paraphrasing, it was a 15-minute conversation. She knew who was gonna pull that card because it would be typically, and again, this person is not racist. We were discussing these questions from last week. She said typically it was a heavier set black woman with the big eyelashes, hair in a weave, and really tight clothes. That simple stereotype or profile, she said she would know that they were typically going to go over there and take something, and nobody would say anything about it because it was store policy. So in something like that, she was able to just see that it happened, but that's in Montgomery, where, whites are way minority in Montgomery and blacks are the majority. So same story from my town where I grew up in Seminole. I would go into Publix as a kid. Mom would be at work. I'm having a party and I've got all my friends coming over, and me and a couple of my friends would go into Publix and we would steal 2 6-packs of steak, put them in the front, put 2 in the back, wear a baggy shirt, walking down the aisle, walk right out the door, go home and cook everybody steaks. As somebody who had the money to buy it, but I wasn't going to spend the money to buy all my friends food. So I feel that that's part of the town that you live in, and will globally stereotype based on a small town area, which I feel as white people in general, we for sure need to work on that. Because, I even talk about it with my kids, and it's wrong, and I've talked about it, and I've changed my narrative at the dinner table to be paying attention to your inside. Like, be in an area that you might feel isn't great, and paying attention to your inside gut telling you, I should leave, I should look here, I should look there, I shouldn't be here. Because if we'll be led by the Spirit, half of the stuff that we have going on wouldn't go on. But we want to do what we want to do. So it's not, hey, if you see a black person, pay attention. It's if you're in an area, be listening to the gut inside you and use wisdom. Don't just stare at the gas tank. Check the scene around you, because stuff happens. So on that note, I feel that we can all step up and not stereotype and not say that all people that have their pants down around their knees are bad, even though that's the stereotype, right? And right or wrong, that's the perception that we're working through. So the last question on here is,
Can I add something to that real quick?
Absolutely.
You know, it's funny in a way, because while the attention is on a group of people, let's say in this case, black people walking into a store, the attention is on us. You know, there's a whole nother group of people that are robbing you blind and you don't even pay attention.
You don't even look. Yeah.
Right? Now, if I was an investment banker, chances are I would not have had the opportunity to gain the type of clients and their resources like a Bernie Madoff did. And
yeah.
I had no intention on stealing from my clients, but he did, right? So if me and Bernie Madoff are in a room together trying to solicit investments, more than likely I would not come close to the investment capital he would have raised versus what I would have raised. I would have protected their money and did the right thing. Bernie would have stolen.
Right.
They would not have trusted me, but they would have instantly, almost automatically trusted Bernie.
All by.
And we know how that turned out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So that just lays open the narrative for us to be able to make adjustments that it's about the person. It's not about the person's color. So there's crappy people in the world. So we pay attention and use wisdom so that we don't fall into the issues of people doing bad stuff. Okay, my phone just went really dark. Hopefully everything's still cool. Last a note on that question. I want you to address personally for my white friends. What should they say, or should they say anything when they say something about, well, let's just address if a black person says black people need to be accountable, they're called a racist, or a white person in a black body. Can you just address that? Because that's been I've heard that several times, that nobody can say to a black person, if you weren't stealing a TV, the cops wouldn't have arrested you without being called a racist. Now that goes for a white person. If the person wasn't stealing a TV, they wouldn't have been arrested.
Right. I saw a post not too long ago, and I'm going to say hardly ever. I want to say never, but I'm going to say hardly ever. I hardly ever comment on something I disagree with. I don't see the point to it myself. So, but I saw this one post not too long ago, and it said the police wouldn't bother people if they don't do anything wrong. And me thinking about my own experience, having been pulled out of my car twice in my life at gunpoint by police, having done nothing wrong in neither case. I said, respectfully, I must disagree. And I wish that were the case. I wished police would leave people alone just if they didn't do anything wrong, but that's not always the case. Now,
gotcha.
I will say unequivocally, emphatically, yes. If you do something wrong, you deserve the police attention that comes your way. However, if you do something wrong and it's not threatening, or meaning it's not causing harm to the arresting officers or the officers who are interacting with you at that moment, if your role in this interaction isn't causing them or isn't potentially harmful to them or potentially deadly to them, you don't have a weapon, you're not trying to take their weapon or something to that effect, then regardless of whatever interaction, the reason for the interaction, you should not be brutalized. Your life should not be taken from you.
Jesus help us.
So on and so forth. So hey, if someone breaks into my house and they're black, I'm gonna call the police, and I want the police to find them. I want the police to apprehend them. I do. And and I'm gonna go to court and I'm gonna testify. It was him. He was in my house. Yes, officer. It was him. Yep. So if you do something wrong, you deserve the punishment. And I don't think that's debatable. That should not be debatable.
Thank you.
What we're saying is, and what should be highly debatable is, if we have interaction with police, we should be treated in the same level of decency and dignity and respect, if there's going to be any, as the person who's not black.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
so if a black man steals a TV and a white man steals a TV and a Hispanic man steals a TV and an Asian man steals a TV and an Indian man steals a TV and a Pakistani man steals a TV or whatever.
Or a woman.
Whoever steals a TV or woman, get them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you where they went.
Yeah.
And do your job. But all of them who get arrested, regardless of their race or nationality or gender, all of them who get arrested should not be treated unfairly during the process of the arrest.
Yes, I totally agree with that. And that, that's the injustice that's happening.
Right.
Where the equality isn't happening. So,
right.
Again, the white people, for lack of better words, want to bark at the fact that, hey, these people made mistakes and they're being arrested for it. Yes, but also they're being treated unjustly. Also, they're being pulled out of their car at gunpoint by simply leaving Blockbuster. So those are the things that are being highlighted. It isn't the fact the crime isn't due its punishment. So we're clear on, you do the crime, you do the time, hands down, but it should be equal across the board. Yes.
Right.
I get that.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. This obviously was a question. Well, I'll just read it. Yes, the statues and the flags are monuments in the museum, but why now are white people so upset about them being taken down or their precious flag being accused when everybody can look back and see that those monuments and those flags were used as intimidation and hate? And to say that they're only about history is for white people to be completely blind. What do you say to that?
Wow. I was at a flea market a few months back. I like flea markets. I like to go in and see what's in there. I'm curious.
Cool stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I was at a flea market and I walked past one of the retailers there, and they had belts and buckles and stuff like that. And the back wall was a huge Confederate flag. I felt nervous. I felt intimidated. I felt a little scared, actually. There's a part of me that wanted to go in and say, dude, why the flag?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point?
What for?
Right? Like why? So is it really just a part of history, or is it a signal? Is it saying something? Is it words behind the flag? I don't think anybody would have a problem in this country, particularly if it's an American flag, right? If you want to put up an American flag, but why that flag? What did it represent? I mean, at very least, it represented treason. A group of states that were part of the Union that had no legal right to leave the Union said, I'm out of here. That was an act of treason. So I never understood why we still have the flag around. I never understood why we have the statues around. Even if we took the slavery part out of the equation, it was still an act of treason. And I mean, don't we dislike traitors? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, there was a day in this history in our country where traitors would be put to death.
Yes.
I mean, there was a day when that existed. So I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't see the relevance to it as far as the historical part. It was a bad stain in our history. The war itself killed thousands of people. There was massive loss. There was massive destruction. I mean, what happened in the South with Sherman and his raid, just going down through Georgia and different parts of the South and just
brutal.
Just tearing it to pieces. Countless of innocent lives were lost. Countless of businesses were destroyed. I mean, it's so much to it all.
Right.
And why again? Because a group of states decided to be treasonous and leave the Union. So why is that stuff even here?
Yes.
And then, of course, there's the sidebar that says, well, they left because they didn't want to give up their free labor.
That's such a small little percentage of people that actually thought. I mean, if you do the research on it, there's such a small group of people that actually even owned slaves. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I, being ignorant, just think that every person in the South had slaves. You know,
Right.
just last week's worth of research and looking up in Google, it was such a small percentage. Because I wanted to know about this question intrigued me. So let's flip this script real quick. I'm in Alabama, South. When I see that flag flying on the back of a truck that I'm going to do the opposite profile here, a redneck's truck. The back end is squatted down. The front end is jacked up. It's got pack exhaust on it. It's obnoxiously loud. You can hear it from blocks away. And got that big flag swinging in the back, driving down the road. 2 white kids in it with their hat turned backwards, fluffy hair, and the little outfit that they typically wear. I immediately think back to a time when my friend Sean Baynard, Chris Coley, who is a black friend of mine, one of my dearest friends, and myself were at Taco Bell in White Seminole, and a guy with that same exact kind of truck, but the flag was in the back window. And there was a couple of females there with us as well. So it was a group of white people with my friend Chris, the one black guy in Seminole. This guy, we're in the parking lot going in, and this guy starts swinging around a big white cooler and starting to say names, N-word names, and calling the ladies N-lovers and swinging this around. And Chris and I kind of just looked at each other. We gave the nod. We went in the store. They stayed inside. Chris went out the side door. I went out the door by the bathroom. I crept around the front side. He crept around the back side, and we knocked all of them out. Just knocked them all out. Chris knocked the guy out so hard that was swinging the cooler that he was doing the mullet. He was shaking like this on the ground. We jumped in the car and still left, and he was still shaking on the ground. So stereotyping that guy when I was a kid, I see these people driving around now. So I automatically think, oh, they don't like black people. That's what I think. Right. I'm not from the South. I'm from Seminole. So what would a black person think about that guy? Of course, and you just said it, of course, you would be intimidated. There's so much controversy going on right now about that flag and about the stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like you, I don't see it. To me, it represents nothing good, regardless of what color you are. If you're white, it represents treason and a traitor. If you're black, it represents the people wanting slavery. So to me, it should be in a museum. And I agree with those kind of things. And my deal is here with this question is why are they so upset about it now, but they don't want to talk about it being intimidation and hate? If they could just listen to black people say that's what it means, you would think as Americans, they would say, okay, I can see that. I won't fly that flag. So simple, right?
Yeah. You know, it unfortunately, it doesn't work on the opposite end. And I'm an opposite kind of person. So if it works on this side, it has to work on the other side. I mean, we have to have it to be able to go both ways. So a black man, he has long dreads, perhaps, he's big, he is intimidating. He goes into a store or let's say he applies for a job. The hiring manager looks at him and feels intimidated and says, hey, listen, and I've heard these stories. I've heard this scenario personally. not to me personally, but I've heard people tell me this
Sure.
scenario. They say, listen, we like you, we like to hire you, but your look is very intimidating, and we're concerned if we hire you that you're going to intimidate our customers, perhaps. You think you maybe cut your hair or do this or do that. So we can be posed with the question and the request to not look intimidating, and that's perfectly okay. But when we say, hey, that's rather intimidating to us. You don't know what you're talking about.
That's history.
You're over-exaggerating. It's nothing but history. I know. When I walked into that flea market and saw that guy with that big Confederate flag hanging on his wall, I felt intimidated. It wasn't history. It was present moment intimidation. And, I didn't know where his mind was. I didn't know what he was thinking. Did he see me and get angry? Did he see me and want to do something? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can only assume.
Right.
But I know that I never went back to that flea market.
Yes, I understand that completely. I get it. So again, it's, to each his own. I'm going to have people that aren't going to like either one of those views, but these were the questions that came in. So we're talking about them. And for me personally, same profiling view. When I see, for lack of better words, a redneck truck slinging that flag, that's what I think. I automatically think they're not too fond of black people. And even, I've said that a few times with my kids, and when my daughter sees it, she's like, she just gives the air leak, like that guy. Wow. We know where he's at, but you see it happens so easy. It's natural to have a perception and to stick with it because of things that's happened. So we have to remain open-minded to actually want to make adjustments. Okay, so we'll keep moving. We got that. I jumped all around, so I'm trying to make sure we get them. Okay, here was a question that came in. I don't see the white privilege because I grew up poor, and I was in a poor part of town, and I felt like I wasn't privileged at all. So not until my older days do I actually see white privilege being a privilege of being white, because I grew up poor. I think that we need to make sure that it's clear that white privilege doesn't mean that you automatically are born with a silver spoon in your mouth.
Right.
Boom.
Right.
What a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I think the word privilege is the trigger. Well, white could be the trigger too, but definitely the word privilege, because in that scenario, you have people that grew up poor and they feel, wait a minute, I wasn't privileged at all. I had a hard go here. And so I think that making it clear is important. And that's why these dialogues are so important.
Yeah.
Because we don't need these knee-jerk reactions to words, right? What do you mean? What do you mean by that? What does that mean? Well, it means that, in a lot of scenarios, if you and I, white, black, are standing next to one another, chances are you might be treated differently than I will be, simply because neither of us has to say or do anything, but more than likely in some environments, maybe in many environments, you're going to be treated differently than I will be.
Yes.
That's all it means, that you have a certain respectability, you have a certain, way that people will treat you. And that's white and black, to be honest with you. Black people treat white people often better than they treat black people. That's unfortunate, but it does happen that way as well.
What is what's the thought process there? Why does that happen?
Well, I think one of the reasons why it happened, it goes back to the stereotypes, right? So, and maybe there's a deep, still subconscious thought pattern and behavior that says, well, I gotta be respectful to this person, or extra respectful, perhaps. Maybe that's still somewhat ingrained in some of it as well. But I have this thing that I like to use, and It's stereotypical, but I do it in a funny way, right? I worked in retail, and I would, I had made it to manager, so I was able to interact with customers when they would try to return something. And I worked at Foot Locker, so the sneaker chain. And, you know, certain people would come in, and white women, right? And their kids would have worn the shoes, torn the shoes up. I mean, the shoes would be on their last leg, and they would want a refund. They're ripped. Yeah, but the shoes are busted. What do you mean? Yeah, but they ripped. They weren't supposed to rip. Well, you can't return these. And they would stand there and demand a refund. So I learned from that, hey, you want something done? You want a return? You want something done at a customer service level? You got to get white women on them. Can't be calm right now. Oh, okay, there's nothing you can do. No, there's nothing you can do. You got to get white women on them. You gotta. I'm not leaving this until I get what I wanted. I don't care who you got to call. I don't care what you got to do. I'm not leaving until I get what I want.
Yes, we need to go up the line.
Do whatever you got to do. I'm not moving. I'm not changing my mind. You got to get white women on them. So I use that jokingly because I observed that. I observed different people coming to the store. Some cases not severe as others, but those white women, they got what they wanted. they always
hilarious.
What they wanted.
I know that to be the truth. So that was what jumped out at me when you said that, was that could be an unconscious bias, which leads me into this question, and that is my word for the week, is unconscious bias. I heard it in one of my coaches' lives that they were doing, that being a gracist instead of a racist, and being a person that believes in gracism and not racism, we have to be able to grace each other today, right? We're not trying to grace the white people from 100 years ago, 500 years ago. They're not around. It's today. Today, we're trying to make a difference. Today, we're trying to make a change. Today, we're trying to open our minds up, and that requires grace. It requires love. It requires enlightenment. It requires us moving away from dogma, and it requires us moving away from perceptions that we've had over our life just on how we grew up. It's accidental, for lack of better words. People say that we're a product of our environment. I do believe there's a lot of truth in being a product of your environment, especially when it comes to narratives and beliefs. I believe everybody can grow out of their environment, but even when you grow out of the environment, sometimes those unconscious beliefs, those unconscious biases are still there. And so when you said that, it triggered me up to that word. And then that brought me to our last question, which was about unconscious bias. And so here's the question. It seems to be unconscious bias seems to be only held to white people as the ones that have all of the unconscious bias problems. I see white people and black people raising their kids that create unconscious bias. For the most part, we talk about sanitizing history, and that's not good to do, but yet we cry about the flags and the statues, which we've talked about.
Yeah.
But sanitizing certain things that white people did is, of course, not good. But how do we raise our kids in this climate when we're continually putting them in the mindset of all of the movies that come out year after year after year about this is how shitty white people are to black people? The slavery movies come out year after year. So in a black family, how do we raise the kids seeing those videos over and over, being the minority being picked on at school, being the minority in a white community? Don't they also have an unconscious bias that white people are the devil? It's like, wow, that was good. Because I know I have an unconscious bias that I just recently, the past month, was able to see. I didn't even really catch white
Yeah.
privilege until it was explained to me simple enough for me to grab it. Right?
Yeah.
Just I'm sticking with the product of your environment, which means we can all move out of it. There's no
Yeah.
privilege here. We all got to earn what we get, for lack of better words.
Yeah.
But I can see it now, plain as day. I can see the things
Yeah.
going on, and so this is. I agree with the first part. According to Facebook, at least, the white people are all the ones with the unconscious bias. And those are all still the people saying all lives matter. So I get it. I see it. I'm not knocking that.
Yeah.
But the second part is also saying how do black communities raise their kids when they're continually putting these kind of movies into the young kids' thought life, and then of course topping that with what we see on TV with the brutal stuff, topping that with being minorities in a lot of the schools and being picked on. I mean, are we not creating generationally an unconscious bias?
Yeah. A friend of mine said to me, we were having a conversation, and I said, unfortunately, when I have children one day, I'm going to have to tell my children what to do, what not to do when interacting with the police. Now, that's an unfortunate conversation I'm going to have.
For sure.
And they said to me, they said, but why do you have to have that conversation? Won't you be instilling a fear and a mindset in them, even though they yet to have experienced anything like that? And I thought about that. I thought, that's a pretty good point. I mean, I don't want to put anything in my children's mindset at an early age
Right.
that's going to generate fear or trepidation or worry over anything. I want my children to see a police officer as their little kids, and like I did, perhaps, or like my nephew did, want to be a cop one day.
Right.
Right.
They're
So
real.
I don't want to put that in their right. I don't want to put this in their mindset as a young child growing up, thinking that you need to fear these people, you need to, avoid these people and things like that, because maybe that will create a unnatural mindset towards the police in the future. Maybe this, what I think is protecting or giving them words of wisdom, which I think would be words of wisdom, it might turn into something worse. Maybe it becomes hatred. Maybe it becomes rebellion or disdain. So I thought that was a very good question. So I'm now have to think, how do I handle this scenario? I want them to be aware of any potential situation that may happen,
Sure.
but I don't want to put something inside of them that could lead them to having an unnatural feeling towards any group of people. Me personally, I can't watch slave shows and movies about slavery. I can't watch those kind of things. I can't. It does something to me. It makes me angry. It makes me mad. And I don't want to take that emotion and subconsciously project it onto people
Right.
that were doing that kind of stuff, that look like people who were doing that kind of stuff in the movies. So I tried myself to stay away from those kind of things. But then there's another part of me that says, but there's a historical aspect to it. Maybe the producers and the directors and the people who wrote these movies did it to try to say, hey, this was really bad. We're going to depict it as being really bad. Let's make sure we never repeat this history again.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we heal and develop and grow from this. So, there's probably a lot of different perspectives that can come out of why this stuff is. But you said this, Phil, on your very first broadcast about this a couple of weeks ago. You brought it back to the home. You brought it back to the parents. And doesn't everything start there? My mom
Come on, man.
taught us love. My mom taught us to love everyone. My mom taught us to respect everyone. My mom said never use the word white devil. Never encouraged any type of separation. Never told us to be afraid of anyone or anything. So it really starts in the home. You really have to, teach your children And don't be afraid to teach them the historical aspects of what's happened, but
Yeah.
teach them how, like you said, to go within, to use their intuition, to use their natural ability of love, to use their natural ability to just be able to learn through life how to treat people fairly,
Yeah.
how to respect people equally, and
Yeah.
things of that nature. And I think if we do that, then everything else will be fine.
Yeah.
We can look at historical stories and not feel some kind of way.
And learn.
We can learn from them, exactly. So it really starts at home. What happens in the home, behind closed doors, at the dinner table? What do I say around my children about different people?
Yeah.
You know, all those things are majorly important. You know, and that works for every area of life. How does, you know, a young boy growing up in a home whose father is abusive to his mother, you know, how does he treat women in the future?
Right.
Versus a young man that grows up in a home with a loving father. How does he treat women in the future? So it plays,
True.
you know, it's equally across the board for how these things go out. But I so agree with you, Phil. A lot of this stuff, if not maybe all of it, starts at home. It really does.
Yeah, man. 100%. I am full agreement that we learn from history. I don't say to get rid of it. Um, learn from it. And, for me, I have my own history in 46 years, right? I'm not trying to sanitize my own history. I never say I wish I didn't do the things that I did. I'm not going to get into them because I think my wife told me that my kids were listening. But there's things that I did that are part of my life that I learned from. There's things that I
Right.
did that I'm not proud of,
Right.
but I learned from them. And none
Mm-hmm.
of it do I want to sanitize and wish that it didn't happen, because all
Right.
of those things make us who we are today. All of the
Mm-hmm.
history, the good, bad, and the ugly that we've been through makes you and I the Americans that we are today. And
Yeah.
without where we've been, we don't know how we got here. And then we also can't make adjustments for the future. And so I am 100% with you, man. I feel like the generations to come, it starts at home. I feel like having the conversations, like for me, I couldn't I couldn't just not let my kids know about it, right? Hiding it
Right.
from your kids isn't how you do it. Addressing it
Right.
at the right time, at the right age, at the right
Mm-hmm.
maturity levels, that's how you do it properly. That's how it moves forward, where we can make a real change and we can stop seeing stereotypes. One of the biggest things that I've learned from all this, because I used to be, for years, I used to be one that would say, I don't see color. And I really charged myself with that, because in my scope and in my sphere, I don't look at people one way or the other. But then when I
Mm-hmm.
really started to scrutinize that, it was, I do. It's only my friends that I don't see color, right?
Right.
If I'm out
Right.
somewhere and I see a black guy with his pants down around his ankles, I see his color and his dress very clear. And it's
Yeah.
whether it's right or wrong with me, I'm paying attention to what he's doing. If we're inside the store, if my kids are with me, whether it's right or wrong, I'm kind of checking it. Is he going to rob this place? Are we going to get a stray bullet? That's white privilege in my own life. I don't want to be that guy. And I'm working on seeing people with the love of God and with the love that's in me, at the same time trying to walk that line of
Yeah.
uh, balance, of wisdom, seeing we're all one. Yes, we're all part of the same race. Yes, but man, it's okay to be proud of your race. You got
Yeah.
black people are proud of who they are. They have come literally from the bottom, and they're at the top of about every echelon. Should be proud of that. Man, I'm telling you, that
Yeah.
Michael Jordan thing I just watched, I was like, this guy is the Don. He is the GOAT.
Yeah.
He is the king. Ain't nobody care what color he is. He's Michael Jordan, not a color.
Yeah.
He's Air Jordan. He's the biggest shoe line to ever hit the face of the earth. He's the biggest
Yeah.
clothing line to ever be with the companies. He's be like Mike. At that point in time,
Jordan.
can we see the simplicity of him walking in who he was, and all
Yeah.
Americans and all around the world saying, I want to be like Mike? Nobody said,
Yeah.
I want to be like Black Mike. Nobody said, I want to
Right.
be a black ball player. They all just said, I
Right.
want to be like Mike. I think that we can get to that place. I think that we can enjoy
Yeah.
who we are. We can take
Yeah.
history, good, bad, and ugly, and learn and move. I
Right.
think that you're doing a great job of showing it what it looks like to have been in
Yeah.
your shoes and still be able to
Hmm.
have this conversation with me and not think I'm the devil or a racist.
No.
It's
No.
beautiful,
No.
beautiful.
Yeah. Love is the key to everything. Every area of life.
Come
Love is
on,
the
man.
key. And I have a nephew who loves to wear his pants sagging still. And he's almost 30 years old. And he loves to wear his pants sagging. A few years ago, and this is when I was still pastoring, so I still had a little bit of that religiosity in me. A few years ago, he called me and said, "Hey, Unc, can I borrow $20?" I said, "Sure, man. Where you at?" "I'm at my grandparents' house." "All right, I'll be over in a little bit." So I drive over to his grandparents' house, call him, "Hey, man, I'm downstairs." He comes out the house. He has that thug look that I detested, right? And my first initial reaction was to look upon him and treat him with that disgust that I have about for that thug look. And I heard this, Phil.
Come on.
If you treat him this way right now, how is he ever going to see me if he can't see it in you?
Wow. Wow.
And I immediately had to change my face and change my expression, change my behavior because it hit me.
Wow.
How in the world can anyone see love? How in the world can anyone see our Father? How in the world can anyone see who we really are designed to be and display if we're treating people with disdain for whatever reason? So
So awesome.
for my nephew, whatever his impression of God is, I want it to be one of acceptance. I want it to be one where he's okay, that he's loved as he is and where he is.
Right.
And I needed to be that example for him of God, because to him, I was his pastor
Yeah.
still. I was, the uncle that went to church and knew the Bible and the scriptures. I was the one he would call when he would have Bible questions. And I needed to be the best example of God that I could be for him and for many others.
So,
And that day changed my perception about that drastically. I don't care what I don't personally like
right.
about a person's appearance or behavior or attitude. Who cares? That's my issue. I have to deal with that. That's Kyle. It's not them. And when I realized that, it really opened up a lot for my interaction. They're not the ones with the issue. He's totally okay when his pants sagging. It doesn't bother him at all. It bothers me. Or it bothered me, right? He's totally okay with it. I'm the one with the attitude driving down the street, man. I'm sick and tired of these people driving.
Yes.
They're perfectly okay with it. So I realized I'm the one with the issue. I'm the one who needed to fix it in me, not them,
So,
not him, not her.
so good, dude. You are for sure a Gracist, bro. That is such good stuff, and it's super good for me, eye-opening for me. See, I can own that. I can totally own that for myself. And on Father's Day, what a better ending to be able to see the beauty of how are our kids going to view us to view our Father? How are people
Yeah.
in general going to view us who claim to be enlightened or spiritual or whatever
Right.
your call is at the moment, Christian, whatever it is, people are viewing you and on up. I've had so many people bust my balls online about how can you say those things as a pastor? And that's what you were just saying. Okay, as a pastor, I'm only supposed to say it a certain way, but really, what about as a father? What about somebody that's supposed to be revealing the Father? So on Father's Day, Kyle, I appreciate you jumping on here with me. I appreciate you revealing our oneness, revealing our union, revealing our Father, that we are one with, that love is how he's revealed. You know, Jesus said, I came to reveal the Father. He didn't say I came to fix your pants sagging.
Right.
Fix your perception. He didn't say I came to fix your color. I came to reveal the Father. So on Father's Day, I appreciate you jumping on here with me, revealing the Father, revealing love, that we can be a gracist and look at people with love, see where we've been and see where we're going. And at home, having these conversations with the kids, you hit it so good that we can't be making our kids fearful of the other color. We have to be instilling history and where we're going. And in the teaching of that was not good, this is good, is the simplicity of it. Doing that at home really moves us forward. Thank you so much for jumping on with me, man. Looking forward.
Thanks for having me, man.
If you got something going on, we got some questions that come up. We'll do it again. We'll make it happen. I so appreciate you and what you stand for. For all of you,
likewise,
share it. Be friends with Kyle. Get onto his stuff. Listen to his things. Listen to how he says it. Listen to how he reveals the Father and how he reveals Gracism as the fix for the world. Gracism is the fix. Amen. We love y'all. You're amazing. You're full. Everything you need for life and godliness is already in you. Look within and see what is there. There's a well of love and kindness already in you. Tap into it. We love y'all. We'll talk to you soon. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Love you, Kyle. Thank you again, man.
Love you, Phil. Love you guys. Thank you.